During the turbulent times before my parents divorced, they decided to send me to my grandfather's for the summer. As an awkward 12-year-old, the prospect of spending weeks with my quiet, distant grandpa was far from appealing. Little did I know that summer would unravel a mystery that had been lurking in the shadows of our family for years. Grandpa and I embarked on a road trip through the quiet cemeteries of northwestern Arkansas, Missouri. He was on a quest, visiting graves of long-forgotten ancestors, meticulously making rubbings of old headstones. It was an eerie journey, the kind that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, but I tried to play along. The real oddity began each evening when we checked into motels. Regardless of where we stayed, Grandpa had a peculiar ritual. He always filled a bucket with ice. It seemed unnecessary, given that we rarely used it, but it was a rule he never broke. One night, we stayed at a rundown place called the Huckleberry Inn, nestled in the deep Ozark woods. As usual, he sent me to get the ice, but the machine was broken. I returned with an empty bucket, expecting nothing more than a shrug. Instead, Grandpa became visibly agitated, insisting we find another ice machine. There wasn't one. The front desk clerk, with a mix of confusion and apathy, couldn't understand his desperation. Unable to secure ice, Grandpa did something unexpected. He demanded we leave immediately, even forfeiting the room fee. As we sped away into the night, the atmosphere in the car grew tense. We drove for hours until we found a rest stop, where Grandpa finally pulled over. He instructed me to sleep in the back seat, brushing off my questions with vague reassurances. The next morning, he acted like nothing was amiss, deflecting my inquiries about the previous night with promises to explain when I was older. Years passed. Grandpa and I grew closer, especially after my parents' divorce. He became a surrogate father figure, guiding me through the tumultuous years of adolescence. It wasn't until much later, when he was on his deathbed, that the truth came out. He sent me an email, a rarity from a man who barely tolerated technology. In it, he recounted a bizarre experience from his youth. During a cross-country road trip after the war, he and a friend, Shane, heard a strange radio broadcast. A man, identifying himself as Buck Hensley, delivered a chilling message about a visitor in the night who would come if they didn't follow a specific rule. Always have a bucket of ice in the room. At the time, Grandpa and Shane dismissed it as a prank, but they decided to follow the advice anyway, if only out of curiosity. That night, they stayed at a motel and filled a bucket with ice. Nothing happened, and they eventually forgot about it, but on a later trip, Shane disregarded the ice rule. That night, something terrifying happened. Grandpa didn't go into detail, only saying that Shane never spoke of it again, and he himself was left with an unshakable feeling of dread. From that day on, he never stayed in a room without getting ice. The ritual became an ingrained habit, a small silent act of defiance against an unknown terror. As Grandpa's story ended, I felt a chill run down my spine. It wasn't just about the ice. It was about the fear of the unknown, the things lurking in the shadows that we don't understand. And now with Grandpa gone, the ritual and its origins have become my own eerie inheritance. Every time I stay in a hotel, I find myself heading to the ice machine, unable to shake the feeling that something might be waiting if I don't. It's a small price to pay for peace of mind, a silent nod to the mysteries my grandfather left behind. And so, the ritual continues, a haunting reminder of the unknown forces that still linger in the dark corners of the world. One fateful night, I decided to take a drive that would change my life forever. Little did I know, the events that unfolded would haunt me for the rest of my days. "Hey man, could you help me out with something?" The cashier, a teenager with acne, was busy bagging my snacks and a pack of cigarettes. He looked up, clearly surprised by my question. "Yeah, sure. What's up?" he replied, somewhat hesitantly. I sighed in relief, glad he didn't brush me off. "I got lost on these back roads," he explained, pulling out an old crumpled map from my pocket. "Can you help me figure out where we are and how to get back to the main road?" I spread the map on the counter, hoping for some guidance. The kid stared at the map, then started laughing. "A paper map? Really? What year is this?" 1993. His laughter was contagious, but I just sighed. "No GPS in my '79 Honda Accord," I said, pointing to my car outside. Eventually, he leaned over the map, chuckling to himself, and pinpointed our location. "We're about 6 or 7 miles outside Placer," he said, and I circled the spot with my pen. "Thanks. How much do I owe you?" I asked, handing him the money for my purchases. I gathered my things, thanked him again, and headed back to my car, the sounds of the night filling the air around me. so I got into the driver's seat. A voice from the passenger side startled me. "So did you find out where we are?" My friend Craig's sudden question made my heart skip a beat. "Yeah, we're near Placer," I replied, handing him a soda. We often took these late-night drives, enjoying the freedom of the open road, but this was the first time we'd gotten lost. With the car's engine quietly purring, I noticed something strange. The cashier was standing at the door, staring at us. A shiver ran down my spine. "What's his problem?" Craig asked, noticing the unsettling gaze. "I don't know, but it's creepy," I said, lighting a cigarette. As we drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The road ahead seemed endless, the forest around us eerily silent. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the road. I slammed on the brakes, the car screeching to a halt, narrowly avoiding a collision. "What the hell was that?" Craig shouted, pale with fear. I got out of the car, heart pounding, and looked around. There was no one there. "I swear someone stepped into the road," I said, my voice shaking. Craig scanned the area with a flashlight, but found nothing. The feeling of being watched was overwhelming. "Let's get out of here," Craig urged. We quickly got back into the car and sped off, the sensation of being pursued fading as we drove. Minutes later, Craig noticed something strange. "Shouldn't we be at the highway by now?" he asked, concern growing in his voice. I realized he was right. The familiar lights of passing cars were nowhere in sight. Just then, we saw a streetlight illuminating an old warn sign. "Golden, 2 miles." A wave of confusion washed over us. Golden was a ghost town miles away from Placer, with no connecting roads. "How the hell did we end up here?" Craig muttered, as I struggled to make sense of it. The road seemed to stretch endlessly into the darkness, as if we'd entered another world entirely. As we drove on, the eerie feeling intensified. The air grew colder, and the night sounds became distant echoes. It felt as if we were the only 2 people left in existence, lost in a twilight zone of endless back roads and spectral figures. The ghostly encounter and the mysterious detour left us both shaken. This night, I realized, was more than just a drive. It was a journey into the unknown, a brush with the supernatural that neither of us would ever forget. Have you ever had a dinner that made you question your very sanity? Trust me, no meal you've ever had could come close to what I experienced. For discretion's sake, I've changed a few names, but the essence of the evening remains as chillingly accurate as my memory allows. Back in the early 2010s, when Marcus Teller was just beginning to carve his niche in the world of startups, he wasn't yet the billionaire he would later become. He had money and a bit of fame, but the cover of Fortune magazine was still a distant dream. I wasn't starstruck by Marcus. We moved in the same circles of ambitious Ivy League graduates trying to make a name for themselves in New York. I was neither a model nor a beauty queen, but I had a sort of bookish charm that attracted a lot of attention. So when Marcus approached me at a friend's party and persisted until I gave him my number, it wasn't exactly a shock. Marcus was tall and slightly chubby, even in his early 20s. His confidence was palpable, yet it seemed to mask a deep-seated insecurity. Within moments of our conversation, he was bragging about his sister's prestigious Supreme Court clerkship and his father's connections with 10 senators. Over the next week, he left a series of messages, inviting me for coffee, drinks, and even to an office party as his guest. I declined each time, citing my busy schedule at the publishing house where I interned. It wasn't a complete lie, but I was curious about Marcus. He was attractive and intelligent, and it was clear he was on the verge of becoming important, even if he came off as a bit aggressive. When my phone buzzed one Saturday morning with a message from Marcus, I was intrigued. Just got back from Davos mind-blowing conversations. I managed to snag a reservation at Mickey's tonight at 7. I'm sure you've heard of it, my treat. Of course I'd heard of Mickey's. It wasn't just a restaurant. It was an elusive, ephemeral culinary event space that appeared for one night only in various secret locations around the city. Securing a reservation was nearly impossible and required connections or a hefty price tag. A menu was prix-fixe, with wine included with every course. I showed the text to my roommate, Raina. "Holy crap, Cassie, you have to go," she exclaimed. Raina's enthusiasm wasn't surprising. She once dated someone just for access to free concert tickets. "If I go, he'll have expectations," I replied, uncertain. I wasn't yet repulsed or attracted to Marcus. Expectations, honey. If a guy buys you Taco Bell, he has expectations. This is Mickey's, do it. If it gets weird, just Uber home. Or maybe you'll actually like him, could be a great story for the grandkids. I recalled various unsettling rumors about Mickey's. One about a live cow being butchered in the middle of the event space. Another about wine recovered from a sunken Spanish galleon. I texted back. 7 works. What should I wear? Anything you like. My adventure at Miggy's began at sunset. The location Marcus provided led me to an unfamiliar ferry dock by Hunts Point. The mist rolled in, and the foghorn's eerie wail made me second-guess the trip. A crowd had gathered by the dock. Men in suits, women in extravagant outfits, and others in hipster attire. I hoped this was the right place. Marcus ran up to me, breathless from a short jog. "Wow," he said, his eyes wide. I glanced down at my little black dress from Nordstrom, paired with silver jewelry matching flats. Marcus wore a white button-down with a blue blazer and khakis, his attire out of sync with the evening's formality. He offered his arm and we walked toward the crowd. The air was thick with the mix of expensive colonies and perfumes. Suddenly, a ferry emerged from the mist, barely lit, its operators seemingly trying to remain unseen. The ferry docked and men in tuxedos helped secure it, their clumsy attempts at tying ropes raising my unease. We boarded, Marcus guiding me carefully up a flight of rusty stairs to the main deck, then through a creaky door into an enclosed area. Inside, it felt like we'd entered another world. Black cloth covered every surface, and tropical plants cast eerie shadows. The warm, humid air clashed with the crisp fall evening. Treasure chests opened, releasing a flurry of butterflies. Monarchs, swallowtails, and Adonis butterflies fluttered around us. For a moment, I was mesmerized. A red lacewing landed on my shoulder, and I smiled at its delicate touch. Then Marcus, without warning, snatched the butterfly and ate it. My shock was barely contained. "Marcus," I exclaimed, "what are you doing?" Looking around, I saw other guests doing the same, eating butterflies with unsettling casualness. I was horrified but realized I had no choice. "Is there a color you prefer?" Marcus asked, holding out a purple emperor. I hesitated. My knowledge of butterflies told me it was non-toxic. Marcus crushed its wings and handed it to me. "I like the blue ones best," he said. "Here, try this." I took the butterfly, its tiny body trembling. I told myself it was a mercy killing as I popped it into my mouth, the taste earthy and foreign. "Good, right?" Marcus said, smiling. "It's even better with champagne. Kinda dries out your mouth." A waiter arrived with flutes of 1943 Paul Roger, and Marcus took a sip before handing me one. "Not bad," he commented. "I thought it would be bubblier. Maybe it loses carbonation with age." The wine was flat, warm, and vaguely vinegary. I struggled to swallow a piece of butterfly stuck in my teeth, feeling the eyes of the staff on me. "I need to get off," I whispered to Marcus. "Swim back to Hunts Point," he replied, his tone mocking. I looked outside, distant city lights. We were far from shore, the water dark and foreboding. 2 massive men in tuxedos blocked the exit. "You should find your seat," one of them said. "The soup course is about to start." Marcus guided me to a banquet table draped in fresh leather. The other guests whispered about its quality. My bowl was a gleaming shell filled with steaming brown liquid and cubed meat. A wooden spoon rested beside it. A voice announced, "Quiz sur humane," through loudspeakers. "What does that mean?" I asked. Marcus shrugged. "I'm learning Mandarin. French is a dead language." All around us, women eagerly dug in. Marcus took a bite, savoring it with a disturbing intensity. "It's amazing," he said. "Like beef turned into sex." His waiters watched me closely. I felt exposed and pressured. I hesitated, but Marcus's insistent gaze pushed me to try the meat. It was the best thing I'd ever tasted or would ever taste. Hours passed with courses of star-shaped noodles, tender steaks, and a bread tree adorned with cured meats. The wines were ancient and extraordinary. By the final dish, I was overwhelmed, my head spinning from the alcohol. The final course arrived a human toe on a bed of lettuce. The toe was darkened with sauce, still intact. I felt my stomach churn, my mind race with horrifying thoughts. Around me, diners devoured their toes. One girl even chewed a toe and then spat out the nail. Her laughter mingling with others. Marcus had no toe on his plate, and I realized he was chewing something with a disturbing calm. "Is everything okay?" a waiter asked, his gaze piercing. "The meat is perfectly cooked." So I pointed to a fleck of nail polish on my toe, my revulsion barely contained. The waiter swiftly took my plate away, but soon returned with an even larger toe. "Compliments of the chef," he said, his smile menacing. I was horrified, unable to imagine consuming such a grotesque dish. Marcus's eyes were fixed on me with a cruel anticipation. People are watching, he whispered. I want to go home, I said, but my voice was almost drowned by the laughter around me. I never should have invited you here, Marcus said, his tone cold. Everyone said you were a prude. I thought I could change you. You're a monster, I replied. I'm an alpha, he said, but sheep can't tell the difference. I dropped the toe onto Marcus's plate, my decision made. The waiter sneered, but did not attack. Congratulations, you've embarrassed me, Marcus said. Great story for your grandkids. I turned to him, anger and fear surging. At least I'm not eating human flesh. His laughter echoed, and soon others joined in, whispering my words to each other. I felt a familiar pang of humiliation, recalling past moments of public embarrassment. What's so funny? I demanded. Marcus wiped tears of laughter from his eyes. What do you think we've been eating all night? He said, revealing the horrifying truth. For more eerie tales and unsettling mysteries, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a chilling story. Your support helps keep the darkness coming.